So now we'll go with our next chapter, the next unit, that is income from other sources. Income from other sources. Here we will be studying the sections. Starts with section 56 and ends with section 59. So from 56 to 59, we study that here under income from other sources. And this is the very smallest concept and the easiest concept for you people, and you can follow this. So coming on to income from other sources, what is the meaning of income from other sources?
Stock market and investment
income from business or profession, because you are investing in a stock market so that you are getting a profit out of that. You are doing some kind of business, that purchasing the stock, selling the stock. So coming on to income from other sources, here the very first one we study is basis of charge. Basis of charge. Basis of charge, here it will be coming under section 56. Section 56, we study about the base of charge, which tells about how do we charge the income from the other sources, where it all we are going to charge, how much we are going to charge over here. So income chargeable under the ID Act here. So income chargeable under Income Tax Act. Under the Income Tax Act, we will be charging this income. So against the income from others, from the income from other sources. And here income from other sources, we will be charging under the head. So it will be charged. It will be charged under the head. Under the head. Income from other sources. Income from other sources. So this is the head. Under this head, we will be charging this income from other sources. So income from other sources, the heading related amount. This is what your basis of charge. Here also, the system of accounting. Here also, the assessee will be paying the taxes under this head. Everywhere the assessee will be paying the tax. Assessee is nothing but the person who is covered under the ID Act of 1961 and who is eligible to pay the taxes on every annual basis. Any doubts on this? Understood? So Iran was the next two. Income taxable under section. Next heading. Income taxable under section 56 subsection. So what is the income chargeable or what is the income taxable? So here we studied about the chargeable income. Here we are studying about the taxable income. So income that is being taxable here under section 56 subsection 2. What is the income that are taxable? So here you have certain point. In that your first point, that is here the dividends we'll study about. What is the dividend? Dividend is nothing but it is a part of profit. You will get some profit to a company. In that profit, for every shareholders, for every investor, they will be getting a part of that profit. It is what we call it as dividends. Dividends received by the shareholder. Dividends received by the shareholder, including deemed dividend. Including deemed dividend under section 2 subsection 22 is taxable in the heads of the shareholder. In the heads of the shareholder. So that means what they're telling, whatever the dividends that you are going to get, usually if it has been received by any of the shareholder, we are going to include that as a deemed dividend because you're the shareholder is receiving that dividend. So under this section, it will be taxable under the head of the shareholder. So under the income of other source, under this head, it will be taxable over here. The second point, amount received under a key man insurance policy, including bonus on each policy. If it is not taxable, under any other head, So here what they are telling about the insurance policy. Here the amount received under the key man insurance policy. Key man insurance policy is a type of insurance policy. Under this head, they will be receiving some amount and that amount will be including some bonus. That means insurance policy amount plus bonus that they will be getting on each and every policy. Suppose this policy, if it is not taxable in any other head, then it will be taxable under this head, that is income from the other sources. Any doubts? Understood? And next you have a third point. Any winnings from lotteries? Any winnings from lotteries, crossword puzzles, races including horse race, card game, and other games of any sort. Any sort is nothing but in related to this, like lottery winning, crossword puzzle, horse race, or any kind of races, or any kind of card games, or any other games which will be included over here. These will be coming under income from the other policies. Okay. So any doubts in this? And on this third point, we have a note. You just take down the note. Taxed at 30%. So here we are going to tax here at 30% without allowing any expenses or reduction. Without the expenses, without allowing any of the expense and deduction, we will be taxing 30%. Say, for example, you won 1 lakh from the lottery. In that, you will be directly taxed 30,000. That means 30% of this will be directly taxable of this 1 lakh. After this, you will get one amount. Now, on that amount, you will be allowed any of the expenses, deduction on that amount they will allow. So in the beginning only 30% tax they are going to put off. Suppose in Big Boss and all, they'll give some flags and all, right? Again, they'll not give that directly to a person. Amount of certain deduction will be done. After that, expenses deduction, the flags amount and all. Sometimes they'll give the flags amount, or while they give the fee of the flag, they will be doing, or they have to, the person who's going to receive that has to pay the taxes. All these are the conditions we've mentioned over there.
The person who is giving it.
No, the person who's receiving, he has to pay the tax. So I hope you guys have understood. We'll go with the next point. Yes, even the cash price also it's applicable. Next, income from machinery. Fourth point, and that only income from machinery, plant or furniture, plant or furniture. Let on hire if the income is let on hire. If the income is not chargeable under the head, chargeable under the head. This will come under which head? Machinery, furniture. Yesterday I taught you. PGB. So listen, any income that you're getting out of your machinery, any income that you get it out of your furniture, you have given your machinery on a hire. So here A has given a machinery to B on a higher basis, and B is using that machinery. And B is using that machinery, B will be paying some of the rent towards that machinery to A. So here the income is not chargeable under the head of PGBP, that income, whatever he gives it on a higher basis, but that will be chargeable under the head of income from the other sources. Okay. So the next point, the fifth point, family pension is taxable under the head. Write down. Family pension is taxable under the head for the family member receiving it, for the family member receiving it. Okay, so here any family pension that is being taxable here under the head of family member who is going to receive it. Suppose if I am receiving the pension of my father, then whatever income that I'm getting out of the pension will be charged under income from other sources under my head, because I'm the assessee over here. I have to pay the taxes. So next, coming on to this point, below this only you just take down the income by way of family pension. The income by way of family pension is eligible for a standard deduction, is eligible for a standard deduction. Here also we have certain standard deduction. So this family pension will be eligible for the standard deduction, which is either 1/3, which is either 1/3 of such pension, or 15,000, whichever is lesser. Okay, so here the deduction, here also we do give it for a family pension. Whatever the pension amount is that, 1/3 of that pension amount will take, and will take 15,000. This is the standard amount for your family pension. In this too, whichever is lesser, that will be your pension amount. Any doubts in this? Understood? And take down here one note, such deduction is not available, is not available yeah, so such deduction will be available, will not available for the individual or HRO, for the individual or HRO of the new scheme, of the new scheme. Like whatever they are telling here, whatever the deduction that you are going to do, that is 1/3 of your pension amount or 15,000, whichever is lesser, you will take that outside. Okay. So if apart from this kind of deduction, usually we will not give it for any of our individual or any of the HRO who has opted for the new scheme. Only for the old scheme people will be giving such kind of deduction. The last point you can take down, any advance money received, any advance money received and forfeited on or after 1/4/2014. Before this date, any advance amount you have been received or any amount that you have been forfeited. So if it is after 1/4/2014, we won't take that in the head of this. That means of that income or any of the head. We usually take that under the head of income from other sources. Okay. Is there any doubt in this? Artha aayata? Okay. So now we'll go with the next one, taxability, the next concept. Okay. So take down taxability of gifts under the section 56 subsection 2 subsection X. So how do we tax the gift? So even this is a very important concept to you. So they might ask you some of the taxable value and all in a MCQ or in the fill in the blanks. So you have to know this taxability of the gift. So coming on to this, take down the 2 column, nature of asset, nature of the asset, and then taxable value. Taxable value. So in the nature of asset, you just take it as money. Suppose if anybody gives you the gift of money, how do we treat that money? So here the whole amount, come on, if the aggregate sum is greater than 50,000. So suppose somebody will come to your marriage and they'll give you amount of 1 lakh rupees check. So for 50,000, there is no deduction. So apart from that, you have 50,000 extra. Now, for that, the tax amount will be that. Okay. So the second one that we have, specific movable property. Specific movable less than 50,000, greater than 50,000. The easy way that you people can remember the simple greater, G comes like this, greater, lesser, L comes like this. So this is the lesser simple. That's the easiest way you people can remember the symbols. Next, specific movable property. So coming on to a specific movable property, like what are the things comes in specific movable property? Say for example, your shares, securities, gold and all. It is a specific and it is a movable property. We are specifically telling it's a gold. We are specifically telling it's a share. So it's a specific movable property. So take down shares and securities. Shares and securities. Come on. Jewelry. Come on. Painting. Artwork, etc. So coming on to this, if it is given without consideration, coming on to it, if it is without consideration, so if it is without consideration means consideration is nothing but something in return to the promise. Okay. So if it is without consideration, something they are giving which is not respect to the promise that they haven't made. So then on that situation, the aggregate fair market value, the aggregate fair market value of the property if it greater than rupees 50,000. Again here, if it is without consideration, more than 50,000 will be taxable, lesser than 50,000 it is not taxable over here. And again here we have one more condition, that is with inadequate consideration. If the consideration is not adequate, inadequate inadequate consideration. So they are not telling like how much consideration you are giving, and it is inadequate. Even you cannot predict that whatever the consideration that you are going to receive. So that is what we call it as an inadequate consideration. So in that situation, in inadequate consideration, the difference between the stamp duty value and the consideration, if such difference is more than higher of 50,000 and 10% of actual consideration. Okay, so here inadequate consideration, stamp duty, the difference between stamp duty. Suppose if you buy a paper, the stamp paper, you will be having some value to that paper, right? So that is stamp duty value and the consideration. This value and this value, the difference between this and the stamp duty, and that difference is more than or higher of 50,000. That means the value of stamp duty and consideration difference should be greater than 50,000 or 10% of your actual consideration. Again, in this, whichever is lesser, you will be considering that amount here if it is an inadequate consideration. So then without consideration means more than 50,000 over here. Any doubts in this? Understood? So the next thing that you have is, here we studied about specific movable property. So now we'll study about immovable property. Any example for immovable property? Somebody, if they give you some lands and all those things comes under immovable property only. Again, in immovable property, we will be getting without consideration and with consideration. First, we'll go with without consideration. So here, coming on to and without consideration, the stamp duty value of the property, if it is greater than 50,000. Again, the value of stamp duty value and the property value, if it is more than 50,000, again it will be taxable if it is without consideration. Then coming on to an inadequate consideration, and in this situation, the difference between the stamp duty value and the actual consideration if such difference is greater than 50,000 and 10% of actual consideration. Again, here whichever is lesser. Same as this point, even this point they are telling you. Here also your stamp duty value and your consideration you will take. The difference between your stamp duty value and your consideration should be crossing the difference. That means it has to cross the difference of 50,000 and more. And if it is crossing 50,000 and more, for that amount, you will take up 10% of your actual consideration. So in these two, whichever is lesser, you consider that as a taxable amount for a immovable property. Any doubts in this? So here, the next point that you have an exception. So here we have a certain exceptions that we are not going to consider this tax amount in certain situation. We see that exception. So exception here, anything that a relative is being giving you. Suppose your relative will come to a marriage and your relative will give something. So it comes like a family person is giving you something. Whether it is taxable, it is not taxable. Your father will give you a car. If a father is giving you a car, it is more than 50,000, right? So it's a without consideration, or we can also consider that as inadequate consideration also. Can we charge the tax on that? No, the tax is not charged on it because it is a gift and it is a domestic relationship you have it with the father. So your father is giving something to you. Okay. So coming on to this exception, received from, you can just take down, received from any relative, received from any relative, on the occasion of the marriage, on the occasion of the marriage, under a will or by the way of inheritance. Under a will or by way of inheritance. So here again in this exception, you have an important note again. So that note you just stick down. Section 56, subsection 2 and subsection H. This comes under the gift, that the income that you get it from the gift. Under this would apply only to property. Would apply only to property which is in the nature of, which is in the nature of capital asset of the recipient. Capital asset of the recipient. Suppose if my relative has been giving it to me, then I will be called as a recipient. Okay. So here this section would apply only to the property which is in the nature of capital asset. If it is a capital asset, then only this section will be applicable to me being as a recipient of that particular asset. Is there any doubt in this? That's all. Okay, so this is about your theory part of income from other sources.